I think when you look back on the greatest athletic disappointments of all time, Bobby Rickey tops that entire list. I can't think of a player with more potential in any sport than he had in wiffle ball that just completely got wasted. And this was a guy we were talking about, a lock to be an all-star, a Hall of Famer, and just pissed it all away. And I wanted to get a handle on, from his perspective and from those that were around him, how did it go so bad? What could have happened?
It's like, wow, you're on top of the world. You feel invincible. You're just completely in denial about all the things going wrong. It's kind of like wishing things were different and knowing things aren't different.
The story of Bobby Rickey is one that is hard to fully understand. Entering high school, he was a prodigy, considered by many the greatest wiffle ball prospect of all time. Once drafted, however, his career and his life spiraled downhill as his fame and alcoholism consumed him. So how can the can't-miss prospect miss?
Yeah, when you think about basketball, Michael Jordan comes to mind. You think of hockey, Wayne Gretzky. Bobby Rickey could have been that to wiffle ball.
The first time I was ever introduced to Bobby, he walked in and he gave me a handshake, and he had the strongest hands I've ever had on a kid.
He, from a young age, was the most talented. Always could, throw the furthest, throw the hardest. Always ran the fastest. I mean, he was always the biggest. He was one of those kids that just never stopped growing, it seemed like.
They wanted to put me on varsity as an 8th grader. That's never been done before. I was about 5'10", 180, twice the size ahead the kids I knew.
Athletically, right away, and all the testing, he had the highest vertical. He had the farthest broad jump. He had the most pull-ups. I think he ended his pull-ups at about 32. I'm talking full pull-ups.
I think it was a combination of things. The arm strength, the bat speed, hand-eye coordination.
Bobby would get up at bat and just hit the ball, drop the bat, and just start walking. You know what I'm saying? Like, you rarely see that. Matter of fact, you never see that.
Everybody could see Bobby's enormous talent. What not everyone could see were the demons that he was struggling with off the field.
I mean, he was playing great, but, he started getting a lot of attention because of how good he was. And he liked that, and he went out after, on weekends and stuff and saw more of it. Started to maybe get involved with alcohol around then, so.
There were red flags everywhere. Kind of surprised no one saw it. I did a good job of hiding it. When you're batting 600, no one's really going to ask questions.
Despite his problems, the Philadelphia Flamethrowers selected him with the #1 pick of the draft, just as any other team would have done. When he first showed up to training camp, he seemed to be everything they had hoped.
Was he the first one in the gym? No. Was he the first one out of the gym? Yes.
Was I 18, 19 years old, making grown men look like little leaguers?
He had this demeanor about him that he was better than everybody else. Everyone else knew he was better than them.
I would drink all night, stay up about 2 in the morning. Couldn't even sleep at night. Didn't even have to sleep. Come in, grab the bat. It was just natural.
His excessive drinking and ego were starting to catch up with him. The player that had been showing up in the beginning of training camp was not the same one they were seeing towards the end.
I started to notice Bobby throwing up, fatigue, coming in the next day sore. Now, he was never sore, but he started to get, he started to deteriorate day after day.
Think about it, it was only first spring training. I don't even care. Most people would give their left leg to be where I was.
I would see him just spaced out and work out sometimes, and usually Bobby's focused, ready to go. but now I just catch him kind of just staring off into space. I don't know what he's thinking about. I can't tell you what was actually on his mind, but as far as, you know, potential, he wasted that pretty fast.
After a pair of highly publicized incidents took place in quick succession of one another, Philadelphia felt they had no choice but to cut ties with Bobby. He went from future superstar to disgraced former athlete in a span of weeks, and no team would ever take a chance on him again.
You just walk in a place, everyone's staring at you. Bobby, Bobby. You kind of feel like it's like a high, you know what I mean? How could you resist that?
The human brain is only meant to handle so many highs. So he has the fame, the fortune, girls throwing themselves at him, especially out of nowhere. Eventually the brain's going to deteriorate.
Do I have sympathy for Bobby Ricky? No. What happened to him, it was coming the whole time.
Do you ever look at yourself and think, what could have been?
To be honest, all the time. Sometimes I do anything to go back. Then sometimes, fuck it, you know what I mean?
My diamond they frozen, ooh, pocket loaded, diamond chain they glowing, ooh, and they showing, money I'm a thot, ooh, watch me block, cop shit when I bought, ooh, that you can't afford, loaded.